Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jared Bonaquisti. I'm a physical therapist with Kinetic Physical Therapy. And with me right now is Bridson Wallace. He is a PT student at Neumann University. And what we wanted to do today was kind of talk about any students that are out there or any high school students that are looking into the field of physical therapy, just to kind of give you a little bit of insight on how you get into the program, what to look for. So my first question, I guess, for you, Bryson, is kind of give us a little bit of your backstory, right? Why you picked Neumann University and how you found it.
Yeah, so I guess if I'm going all the way back, I did my undergrad at Penn State, and I was kind of one of those kids that just didn't know what they wanted to do, right? So I started even an art major. I was undecided for a while, and I didn't find physical therapy until I had like a couple good mentors.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of shadowing, and then once I figured out I wanted to do physical therapy, I was in it.
Right.
And that was the kind of like I guess like the focus that I needed.
Yeah.
Because once I found that focus, then I was like, I know what my grades need to be. I know how kind of like, what I need to do. So I graduated Penn State with a Kinetic degree, and I just put my application out there. I totally underestimated kind of what the application process was, and how rigorous it was, how competitive it was. So I put my application out there, and I think I applied to like maybe 7 schools.
Right.
And then I didn't get in my first try, which everyone said it was totally normal. And just to keep going for it, you'll eventually get in. It's just you got to just do what you need to do, whether it be getting good, retaking classes, retaking the GREs. And then the second year I applied, I got in my second try after taking, I think 3 more classes at community college, retook my GREs. I even called all the directors of all the programs that I got rejected from to ask them, what can I do to be more competitive for your program?
Absolutely, which is a big part of, because I know for me, like, same thing happened. I didn't get in right away. And being able to kind of find out those little things, little details on which maybe you missed or classes that you should retake is always a big deal. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, as actually a lot of kids, when they don't get in, they're like, oh well, that's it. But being proactive, reaching out, finding out kind of the things that you can improve on to make yourself look like a better candidate is important.
And that's another thing too, is like I talk to a lot of guys who are looking into getting PT school, and then they'll just take a gap year because they think my application's not strong enough and I just won't get in, so I'm gonna do what I need to do. They take those classes, and like I feel, and I don't know if admissions directors would agree with this, but I always kind of think like if you have the resources to put your application out there once, like for the first time, I think a lot of schools will literally ask on their application, is this the first or second time you're applying?
Yeah.
And so if you can put your application there, even if you're going to get rejected, but then you can have that communication with them saying like, how can I strengthen myself?
Absolutely.
And the second time you apply, they'll see that growth in you.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I think that's really important too.
Yeah, definitely a good point to make there. And again, if anyone's interested in physical therapy, right, you've obviously looked into this profession a little bit in terms of the wide range of patients that you can work with, right, from your geriatric population all the way up to some of your professional sports teams, right, studying movement, using hands-on and exercise therapies kind of together there, right, to help people reach their goals, decrease their pain levels. So kind of look more into that information if this is kind of the first time you're hearing of physical therapy there. But all right, so you landed on Neumann University, right? That's where you went. What kind of made that stand out in your mind?
Honestly, when I was applying to schools, it was almost like a desperation. Like I just wanted to get into school. And I think so I, once I applied to Neumann and then I got that interview, it was almost like, okay, I got an interview. Like I got a place that's interested in me.
Yeah.
And, but honestly, I think I would have been happy anywhere I went.
Right.
And, I've talked to you about it. It's like, I was worried that with COVID going on and like the online classes, is this going to take away from my educational experience? Is it going to take away from what kind of a PT I'm going to be? And I think what matters less about what school you go to is more like what kind of student you're going to be at whatever program you're going to be at.
Yep.
And so with Neumann was great for me. It's a great fit. It's a weekend program. So class all day on the weekends, and then throughout the week, you're managing your own time, getting all the work done on your own, and you're able to work. And for me, that's like the perfect setup for me, because I like just being loaded with a ton of work and managing it on my own. And then it's just my opinion that being able to be in the clinic while you're in school is just so much more valuable than having that, 5 days a week throughout the weekdays class schedule. Because I just know that, like, when I was even on my, after my clinical ended, and then I just couldn't come back here for some time for COVID, I just felt like my brain wasn't in that PT mode, and like I wasn't getting that experience, and I wasn't thinking about exercise, and I wasn't thinking about patients. So being in the clinic is just so valuable to me. So I think Neumann really was like the perfect choice for me. But,
Yeah, and Bridson here mentioned like Neumann University being a weekend program, right, Saturday, Sundays, and it was originally designed for PTAs that wanted to transition, into physical therapy, but now they've opened it up to a variety of students. Other programs you can go to is your standard 3-year program. There's other programs out there that are 3+3, so you go in as an undergrad, and as long as you hit certain criteria, get certain grades, you're then given access to the same school, right, for the next 3 years. Kind of speeds up your track a little bit. And then, you have your other, like I said, just your traditional kind of, you apply. If you went to, let's say, like I did, Westchester University, right, then you just apply right out of there to get into their program there. So talk about, dive into a little bit more on what type of student you have to be, right, to get through PT school, right? Some people say the easiest part is just getting into school. What do you think about that?
I think the hardest part about PT school is getting into school.
Yeah,
personally.
Sure.
Just because if I had the foundation in undergrad that I have now, I think it would have been a lot easier. But again, without that focus of I want to do PT school, I know what it takes to get into PT school. I didn't have that base. I didn't have like the really, really good grades. It's a competitive program to get into.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that same spot. Hundreds of people applying for 30 spots, right?
Sure. Yep.
So for me, I think getting into school was the hardest part. And then, but once I was in school, everything kind of changed. Like everybody always says, grad school's hard, but it's what you're passionate about, so you'll do well.
Right.
And I was like, I really hope that's true for me, right? And I just like didn't know if it was true.
Yeah.
Because all the way through undergrad, it was like I didn't want to study. I didn't want to, take tests, and I didn't enjoy it, right?
Sure.
But that really clicked for me when I got into grad school, where it was like, oh, I am interested in all these things. So, studying all day isn't honestly terrible, because I'm like learning about things that I'm really interested in, and it becomes so much more real to you when you realize this is what I'm going to be doing.
So and I agree. Like it's once you get in, you go through undergrad and you're going through like if you're not in English like myself, like basic English or psychology or this and that can be a little boring or a little different, harder to kind of study for and get into. But once you really find like that program and that interest, especially with PT, right, getting in, learn the human anatomy, it makes it so much easier to kind of stay on top of it. But again, the self-discipline part, being able to keep on top of all of your all the work that you have to do, the assignments, right, taking the test, it can be rigorous, right?
To your point too, I think what kind of student do you need to be in PT school? You need to be really committed and dedicated, which is why I think the application process is so rigorous. And you got to be willing to take classes again and really like kind of swallow your pride and really put in the work, and all those skills that you develop to get into school you apply while you're in school. And it's a rigorous program no matter where you're going to go.
Sure.
But again too, with working during the week and everything like that, you kind of have to balance, all right, do I want to put my time to learning clinical experience, clinical tools, or do I want to put my time to learn textbook and knowledge and stuff like that, right? And it's too like, I think definitely earlier in the program, I just prioritized textbook knowledge. And that's all I cared about, and I was okay with working just minimal hours. But now I'm getting more into the mind frame of, textbook knowledge is really nice, but what's important is what kind of a PT am I going to be, and all that type of thing. So,
how about if you had to give one, last question here, one tip to like either students in PT school right now, right, or prospective students that want to at least pursue a career or at least look into it, right? What would you kind of give them? What would be your advice to them?
Gosh, I think for prospective students, it's just remembering why are you doing what you're doing. I guess for current students as well, like why am I doing what I'm doing? And just for me, reminding myself all the time, it's like I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to be a really good physical therapist. Is that makes studying the long nights kind of worth it. And you realize, okay, I'm not just doing this for a grade. I'm doing this for the kind of PT I'm going to be.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think that's the one word.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing, right? Because you can lose yourself in kind of figuring out what you want to do, right? And then all of a sudden you get lazy, the assignments don't work, and then all of a sudden this goal that you think you had, right? The reason why you want to do it all, you end up not doing it there. I think for my perspective, one thing that I would recommend to all the students out there, right? Whether you're going into PT school or want to do it, is like you said earlier, get in the clinic. Right, get in the clinic or the place that you think you may want to go to, whether that be acute care or inpatient, right, a skilled nursing facility or an outpatient clinic like the one we have here. Get in there, see if you like the environment, talk to some of the therapists, some of the other students that may be on in that time, and figure out whether this is something you really want to do. Because once you figure out, okay, I like physical therapy, I like kind of that profession, and then you set your mind to it like you're talking about, and you find out your why, it's going to make it that much easier to apply to school. It's going to be that much easier to get through school and then become a great therapist there. So, Bridson, thank you very much, right, for coming on, and talking with any students out there. If you ever have any questions or anything, you can find all of our information on our Kinetic physical therapy website, or we'd be happy to talk about, really anything physical therapy related. If you have a question about coming into the clinic and observing, or if you're a prospective student and you're not quite sure what you may need, we can always give you some tips there. All right. So thank you again, guys, anyone who's watching here, and, stay tuned for more of the webinars that we may have here on YouTube or on Facebook Live. So keep looking for information on that, guys. Thanks.